Tov, and we're coming from the Chag HaChagim, the holiday of all holidays, the Rebbe calls it, Dida Notzach, the triumph and the great revelation of who who has been victorious, and in regard to this, the Torah tells us that Didan Notzach, our side, the side of light, the side of goodness, the side of righteousness has prevailed. And we're not talking about the holiday of Hanukkah, even though it could also fit the holiday of Hanukkah, but we're talking about the great victory in the court case in the federal, as it was judged and it was brought down in the federal court, that the books and the writings of Chabad Lubavitch belong to Chabad Lubavitch, and they do not have any connection with any type of inheritance that could or might have been considered in regard to these books, even though the books were directly under the jurisdiction of the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, and he gave his life over in order to go and to save these books from Eastern Europe, from Europe. The fact of the matter is that, and this is the way the judges came to their final conclusion, that there is no private life, and there is no private concept of a person when we're talking about a Rebbe. A Rebbe belongs to the Hasidim, just as the Hasidim belong to the Rebbe, but the Rebbe belongs to the Hasidim. And therefore, when we're talking about the concept of a person and their inheritance, this is something that is in a regular situation, and obviously also according to Torah law. But when we're talking about that which is something that is beyond an inheritance, that which has to do with the direct correlation of a chassid with the Rebbe. So this is something that there is no private domain, and this is exactly also what the Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka, the Rebbe's Rebbetzin Aleh Shalom, she also said when she was giving over her testimony, that her father did not have a private life. He didn't have a life of his own. His life was a commitment to the Hasidim. And so, hence, we also understand that when we're talking about the great victory of proving this, this is also a proof of what? It was a proof that there was actually a person, or spiritually from above, there was a struggle against the leadership of the Rebbe himself, against the fact that there is a Rebbe in the world, and he leads the not only the Hasidim but the entire Jewish nation, and also as Melech Ha'Moshiach, the entire world. And this leadership was being contested, and apparently it was, as we know, with all the Rebbeim, when there is a struggle here in this material world, so it's reflecting the struggle in the divine and spiritual worlds, and this struggle was finalized and closed. It was confirmed even by the Goyish courts, even by the federal courts here in our material world, that the Rebbe is Rebbe and the Hasidim are Hasidim, and the concept of the books, it was, so to speak, a side issue. And then everything came to there was an enormous joy that broke out amongst the Hasidim. I personally had the zchus of being there at the time of the celebrations of Hey Teves and so on. But the main thing that the Rebbe comes and stresses is that it's not the concept of a triumph for one book or another book. It's the triumph of the existence of the Hasidim, the existence of the Rebbe, and the fact that we actually have the ability We actually have the ability to bring Moshiach because without a Rebbe, there's no Moshiach. And without Moshiach, we're stuck. And this is something that the Eibishter, obviously, there was a, like we said before, there was a great struggle and there was a great challenge. But the Eibishter handed it over to us in our hands, as we are already told from the Alter Rebbe, that in all challenges, that in all contestants, of truth against the fallacy. So Yad HaChasidim al HaElyona, the hands of the Chasidim have we have the upper hand, as we say in English. And so the the concept is not only to go and to realize, there's a Rebbe, there's Moshiach, there are Chassidim, but we have to see how this is expressed in our daily life. And the way that it's expressed in our daily life, the Rebbe says, first and foremost, to go and to see to it that everyone purchases Jewish literature, Jewish books, books that have to do with Yiddishkeit. And everyone sets aside time, additional time in addition to all the time that we were learning and studying till now, in order to go and to add in our study and add in our learning. And not only this, but to go and to make sure that even the old and the previous books that we have in our home, all these books should be taken care of. In other words, they should be properly bound. Yeah, even in regard to the binding of the books, the Rebbe mentions, and furthermore, last but not least, the continuation of the Sforim, the books that are lying here in this world, but they're in a state of captivity in Russia. Even though initially, even the Russian government agreed to go and to let the books go, to return the books, for some reason or another, the books never left their original address in Moscow in Russia, and today they're sitting in a museum, a Jewish museum, but it's a museum that does not allow the books to be in their proper and their original ownership of place in the library of Agudas Chasidei Chabad Lubavitch in Brooklyn, New York. And this, the Rebbe says, is something that we also have to go and we have to literally put all our efforts in order to go and to free these books from captivity. And the moment that this is done, so this brings about also the freeing of the entire Jewish nation from their captivity. By the way, as we know, it's already 400 and something days to the fact that we are ourselves, we have captives, we have those that are being held hostage in Gaza. And this is again the concept of freeing the books and freeing the hostages. This is something that is enduring and continuing, Rahman al-Islam. This is something that has to stop, and all the captives have to go out to freedom, and we should have our entire complete freedom with the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach in the third and the eternal Beis Hamikdash, and the true and the complete Geula immediately now. Now let's get to our story, the Dan Notzach. We're talking about a story that happened recently, and the person that the story happened with originally he's a Tzfatonian. He lived here in Tzfas. The one of the sons of the Hendel family here in Tzfas, who are a family of Kohanim. So we're coming from the holiday of Hanukkah. It's very appropriate. He is a shliach, and he also is the head of a yeshiva of Chabad yeshiva in Beer Sheva, in the south, and he tells the following story. It was maybe a week or two ago. He was supposed to his mother. She should be healthy and well. Had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks. And each and every one of the children, whoever was able to, took time from their private matters in order to go and to be by their mother's side and to make sure that she has to provide for her and to just to be there a child with the mother while she's in hospital. Hashem should watch over us. We shouldn't have any of these types of experiences, not ourselves and not anyone that we know. So before he went and he planned out the day, and he that would be his turn to go and to be in. It was in Yerushalayim, the hospital. And before he goes out to Yerushalayim, gets on before he's meant to get on a bus. So one of his fellow shluchim in Beer Sheva gives him a call and tells him that he's going to be out of town for a week. And since he's going to be out of town for a week, there's one thing that he's asking Rabbi Yosef Hendel, this is the son, he's asking Rabbi Yosef Hendel to take care of. And this is what? There's a senior citizen center in Beer Sheva. And he goes there in order to put on tefillin with the gentlemen that participate in the senior citizen center. And since he's not going to be there for this week, so he asked if Rabbi Hendel would be able to be there to substitute and to put tefillin on with the people that didn't have the opportunity to put on tefillin. And Rabbi Hendel heard this, and he said, well, it's going to be a little difficult, but listen, I'll try bli neder to be there. Now, he didn't really think how it's going to formulate, because it's going to be very difficult getting back from Yerushalayim. And he told him that he has to be there no later than 12:30 in the afternoon. And that afternoon, he was going to, that morning, he was going to Yerushalayim, and he would be there staying over the night by the hospital with his mother. And he was supposed to be returning the following morning. But to be from Yerushalayim to Beer Sheva with getting up in the morning, davening and Kriyas Torah, it was a Monday, and getting there on time for the bus to get back to Beer Sheva, he was praying that everything would be okay. He was there, visited his mother. He stayed at the hospital. He got up early in the morning, very early in the morning. He davened, and he made his way after davening to the central bus station, where he ran with all his strength to the bus stop to Beer Sheva, and he was told that the bus pulled out 2 minutes before. Hey, there's an Eibishter that runs the world, and he didn't know what to do. There were many, many thoughts that were going through his mind. And then all of a sudden, a story came to thought. He remembers a story of a shliach that the Rebbe contacted, and the Rebbe asked this shliach to put tefillin on with a particular person in his hometown. And the Rebbe added that even if it's going to be on the expense of family happenings, family occurrences, in other words, his own personal family matters, he should still see to it that this person will put on tefillin this day. The shliach had to put many, many things on hold, and it was very difficult, to say the least. But the shliach got over to this person, put tefillin on, and the shliach tells the story that this person that he put tefillin on, many moons later, this person became a Baal Tshuva, and he became one of the biggest Baal Tshuva in the community of the shliach, where the shliach was, in the particular town the shliach was, and all the family, and not only the family, but the children and the grandchildren became observant, and they became chassidim as well. Having this story, the first story that comes into his thought, he says, I have to make it over to Beer Sheva. I have to make sure I'm there in order to put tefillin on with whoever it's going to be. He runs out of the central bus station. He goes to the street, and he runs up to a taxi cab. Now, to say, going and taking a taxi cab from Yerushalayim to Beer Sheva doesn't seem to be a big deal, as long as you have a few hundred shekel in your pocket. he was supposed to be getting on the bus, and being a shliach, you know, his his resources are very low, as we know. And so he goes sits down into the taxi, and he tells the taxi cab, the taxi driver, listen, I need urgently to get to Beer Sheva. He says the taxi driver says, no problem. He says, but I'll tell you, 1 second. And he puts his hand into his pocket. He pulls out all the money that he has. He says, when he counts it, he says, here, I have 320 shekel, but that's all I have. The taxi driver looked at me and says, what? That's you're offering me. That's like half the price from Jerusalem to Beersheba. It's a spatial. It's a personal taxi. You can't go and get a taxi for that price. It's embarrassing to even offer a driver that amount. And he started to squabble and to cry and to explain to him that it's an urgent emergency and he's doing such a big mitzvah. And the taxi driver said, "Listen, calm down, calm down. Give me whatever you have. We're going to Beersheba." Okay, so they they go on their way and they're driving. And on the way, the Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Hendel, he tells the driver, if it's not enough that he gave him just the amount that he had, he says, "Listen, I have to be there on time. You have to get me there before 12:30 because this is something that is like, it's a matter of life and otherwise." So the driver looks at him, smiles because he already enjoyed the comic show that was going on. And he says, "Listen, Rabbi, I'll try my best." And they're driving and driving down to Beersheba. They arrive at the Senior Citizen Center with 15 minutes to spare. In other words, they arrived at 12:15. Rabbi Hendel thanks the driver. He goes in to the Senior Citizen Center with his tefillin, and he starts putting tefillin on with people. And he was very happy, Baruch Hashem. What could have been better? And he was able to fulfill his mission, fulfill his shlichut, and fulfill the request of the other shliach. But the story doesn't end over here. Okay, he goes home. He wakes up the next morning, and he gets a telephone call. Who's calling? It's a center that is writing how would you call it? A compilation of Torah innovations, together with these Torah innovations that are being written in by different rabbis and different scholars. They also were putting into this book recent answers that were uncovered, that were revealed, that were found from the Rebbe. And recent answers, meaning these were answers that the Rebbe actually gave. And for some reason or another, the people that were supposed to receive the replies never received the replies, and the replies remained in the Mazkirus, in the Rebbe's secretariat. Among these answers, there were two answers that were written out 33 years ago. It's a long time. So it's before Gimel Tammuz, 33 years ago, and these answers, it was more than before Gimel Tammuz. We're talking about probably Tafshin Nun Aleph, Nun Beis, 5,551, 52. Amongst these answers were answers to the Geula and Mashiach Center in the yeshiva of Tzfat. Here in Tzfat, in the Chasidei Chabad, Yeshivas Chasidei Chabad Lubavitch Yeshiva, the Tomchei Tmimim of Tzfat. There, at the time when the Rebbe was making such a shturim, as the Rebbe is making here and now as well, the Rebbe was arousing the urgency to go and to do everything that we can in order to bring Mashiach. So they're formed in the yeshiva an institute called the Mashiach and Geula Center. And this center was one of the people that was at the helm of the center was this Rav Yosef Handel, who at the time was a rabbinical student in the yeshiva. And from time to time, they would write a doch. They would write a they would write into the Rebbe in regard to their activities, and whether they received an answer or didn't receive an answer, that didn't make a difference. They would write in their coverage of their activities. Happens to be like this, that in that time, the answers that were sent were not sent all in written form. They were also sent, and specifically in regard to this, because there were so many people that were calling in, so many people that were writing in regard to their activities of bringing Mashiach, bringing the Geula, and heralding the epoch of Mashiach. So the secretaries would receive answers from the Rebbe, and then the secretaries would call back the phone number that was written on the note, and they would give the answer on an oral basis. What happened if the people were called, the parties that were called, didn't answer their phone? Happens, right? So they tried once or twice, but then these answers, if the phone wasn't, the party on the other side didn't answer their phone, so these answers just remained in the by the secretariat. And amongst these answers were these two answers that the people that were putting out this book, they were able to uncover, they were able to reveal, and these were two answers for Rabbi Yosef Handel. And then Rav Yosef looked at this and he said, "Wow, how is it so remarkable that he went out of his way also to do Kibud Av Va'em, to go and to honor his mother, but also at the same time to go and to be back in order to put on Teffilin with the people in the senior citizen center. And here, all of a sudden, the Rebbe is all after so many years, the Rebbe is coming and expressing his gratitude by bringing about the revelation of these answers that were answered 33 years ago. And so also Rav Yosef concludes his story. There's no doubt that everything that we do, every single action, utterance of speech, even every thought that we do in order to go and to bring the Geula, to bring the redemption faster, and to bring about the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach, is appreciated and is valued by the Rebbe himself. And the fact that we don't have the ability to see it yet, this is already a very big challenge. It's true. It's a very difficult and even painful challenge. But the fact of the matter is that the Rebbe tells us to continue with our efforts and to continue with our work, and to continue not just by fulfilling the mission, but to do it in a manner of simcha, in a manner of joy, of happiness, because it is the joy, the happiness of the service of a Jew that brings Moshiach even faster, that brings the Geula even sooner. And with no doubt, Be'ezus Hashem, as we mentioned at the beginning of even before the story, we'll have the Didan Notzach, our side will be victorious. We'll have the restoration of all the hostages from Gaza, and all those books that are being held hostage in Moscow, Russia, and all of us that are literally, we're being held hostage here in Golus, in exile, will be free in order to go and to join the revelation, the celebration with the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach. As the Rebbe says in this week's parsha, Vayichi, the Rebbe mentions that this is the last generation in Golus, in exile, and we are also the first generation in the Geula Hashlema V'Amitis, in the true and the complete redemption, and it should be Teichef Umyad Mamish, immediately now. Yechi Adonenu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu HaMelech HaMoshiach Chai V'Kayam L'Olam Voed. Amen.